Welcome to my third installment of Game On with Gibbo Goes One-on-One. What the hell have you been doing in this last 3-4 weeks of isolation?
Yeah, pretty obvious question you fired off there. Not a whole lot, mate. Just chipping around in my backyard. I bought a new house here a year ago, and the house I inherited has a lot of work that needed to be done in the garden, and I said I'll put it off to the off season, and what do you know, we can't do anything else but do that. So just chipping away with that kind of stuff.
So you're doing some home renos?
More of a backyard kind of clear out. Just got my daughter's cubby house up and about, filled that with sand, about 30 kilos of bags of sand. So that's my weights program done. Laid some new turf, cleared a bit of space down the side, working on a new gate, painted the back fence.
You consider yourself the handyman, or just enough to get by, or?
Just following my old man's example. He's stuck here with us because he couldn't get back into Adelaide at a certain stage, so he's just kind of waiting it out here with me, which has kind of been good, but I think we're driving my wife insane.
Well, talking about Arthur, your father, he's obviously he's been your agent, or he had been your agent. I don't know if he still is or not, but he hasn't been. How was that? Like, he was early on, right? Was he, or he thought he was?
He helped do my first professional contract, so that was only a couple of years ago because I'm only 26 years old. No, he kind of started out things for me initially, and as I kind of to move on to bigger and better things, he kind of took a back step. But he's actually been very good with my finances, and he's helped me through most of my career, and I'm slowly starting to learn a bit of that stuff myself, being a father now.
He loves, I've been over to your house a couple of times, he loves to fire up the barbecue. He's got his thermometer and chucks it inside the whatever he's cooking up to make sure it's all cooked to perfection.
Yeah, he's more of a more well done guy than I am, so we're clashing a little bit. Teaching him that everything doesn't have to be burnt. My time in Spain taught me that, so he's slowly coming around to the idea. I believe he just wants to cook roasts all the time, like chuck one at 2 o'clock and see how it goes. So I think he's got a chicken up his sleeve today. Did a lamb the other day. So we were eating well in this house, and that's important.
Does he think he's a better basketballer than what you are?
I think I outdid his career in my first 2 games. I think he averaged about 2 points, so I managed that after 2 games. So that's not even a conversation worth having with him, I don't think.
And what about the rest of the family? You got little Betty, little Beth, and Charles just turned 2 not long ago. How's the little man going?
Yeah, he's hanging in there. I think he misses, he used to go to little Gymboree and those kind of things. And, my wife would take him to the gym, and he had a few little friends there. So I think he's starting to miss that kind of seeing other kids. Like, we're around all day, so that's cool for him. But I think he misses that a little bit, but he's going strong. I've put him up some new hoops outside, got him working on his game a little bit. He likes hanging on the rim and that kind of stuff. And, my daughter, it's been hard on her, second year of school now, and she probably misses her friends and all that stuff. But Bridget's doing a great job homeschooling her, and they're on holidays now. We were thinking about not telling her and just chipping through it and just keep on with home. A lot of people are doing that, but yeah, she's going well. I've been playing Barbies with her and that kind of stuff. She's enjoying that. I think Barbie's a little bit spoiled. I've picked up on. She hasn't had to do it hard, young Barbie. And what else? Just playing in her cubby house. That's been fun for her. She likes gymnastics, so she wants me to put up a chin-up bar for her somewhere so she can practice her chin-ups. We'll see how that goes. Just stick to, the little things at the moment, but it's still a lot of isolation going ahead, so who knows what can happen.
Obviously, yourself and Bridge, your wife, was a basketballer, obviously, before kids. Do you see either of those two, any talent you kind of see coming through them at a young age? You think maybe they might be pro ballers?
Betty said she just likes dribbling. So I said, you don't score points for dribbling, Betty. She hasn't quite grasped that concept yet. I think Charlie, he might be something, but they're still young. I mean, I'm not trying to force it upon him or anything. I've only got 5 basketball hoops out there for him, so he'll make his choice. But they're still little. They're going to be tall, so Keep working on them as they get older and older and see how they go.
Are you getting much? Are you getting a lot of any kind of basketball stuff in yourself? Obviously, it's off season. I don't know if you're planning to go to Europe or play in the off season anywhere, but obviously not being able to hit a court or anything. Are you trying to do any kind of programs, weights, whatever, basketball type stuff at home to keep, I guess, your skills that way you can't get out and about on a court?
Not really, Gibbo, because like this time of the year, I normally take like 4 to 6 weeks off anyway, because the season's only really finished a month ago for us, and so this time I'd still be starting to think about doing something. I've started doing a bit of running, slowly and slowly, because as you get older, the more time you take off, the harder it is to get back from. Our staff were really good. They put a whole bunch of programs together for us. So, your first, second year players, they've got a few more strength things they need to do. And you kind of got your middle guys there, they've got some running stuff. And then you got the older guys, there's more of rest and maintenance kind of stuff. So they were really organised with that. It's all written up. So just following the program, basically not doing too much because we don't start again until October. But at the same time, just being mindful of not doing anything. I think being active outside in the yard and going for walks with the family is something, and 3 to 4 times a week go and do a bit of running outside.
I had a question I put up every week on Instagram about asking my guests questions, and one was about longevity. Someone like Dave Anderson, who's played for I think 20 years. Like you've played professionally now for what?
I think 16 or 17.
17 years. Like touch wood, been fairly healthy, but obviously you got to be smart, like you said. Being older, you're not going to go out and do a lot now. Just kind of maintain. I learned not to have a big off season and take 3 months off because it's so hard to get back when you get older. But is there anything you've kind of done to, I don't know, just stay at a good level so that when you do get back into things, you don't injure yourself or you're not too far behind the 8 ball?
Yeah, I mean, probably the obvious one as you get older is your diet. Like your metabolism slows down, and you can blow out if you don't watch yourself. So that kind of stuff. I guess. I think it's important more. You do need to have a bit of a mental break from basketball at times because you can get so in your own head about, needing to get X amount of recently about that stuff has been David Anderson. He always used to say to me, when you get to an age, you've done a certain amount of reps, you don't really need to flog it too much anymore. So I guess that's something I've learned in the last few years. It worked for me this year because I had a good season. So, just kind of figuring those little things out without forcing the issue too much. So I think, your diet's pretty important. Injury prevention, you don't have to do crazy weights. It's just doing the right kind of exercises to keep your muscles loose and avoid those injuries. It'll be interesting, if the isolation continues, what effect that will have on players and them coming back. I'm sure coaches and people will be having discussions about how they can manage their players, with this unique situation we're dealt with.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that's going to be a massive thing coming back. Being older, you know exactly what you need and you don't need as much work. But obviously, the first, second year players or even just younger players in general probably need to be out on court, putting in 3-4 hours a day to get better. And whether they're motivated, whether they think they'll just be all right once it starts back up, I feel like that might, like you said, it might have a fair impact. And I mean, it's probably a high chance there's going to be a lot of injuries and, stuff like that after coming out of this lockdown for so long.
Yeah, I think definitely. I do feel for the younger players because, a lot of those guys rely on, the second tier leagues to work on their game and be around their coaches every day. Like all our coaches are here, but there's nowhere we can really go. So, not everyone's lucky enough to have a yard where they can go out and, put some shots up outside or anything like that. Here in New South Wales, you're not even allowed to go into the parks to shoot. So I'm not sure what it is in other states, but I do feel sorry for, a first year player out that he can't go and work in this game. I guess, there'll be a lot of stuff done over video. People can kind of critique what they need working on. And when they can eventually, things hopefully start to open up again, they've got a pretty good idea of what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, we've started doing some video stuff as a club. We can't, in Victoria here, we can't more than 2 people for 30 minutes. You can go on for a walk or a run through the park, but there's no real area to get on court. So it's definitely tough. What made you want to be a pro? Like money and whatever, but when did you realize that, you know, I want to be a pro and this is what I want to do for?
I guess I was a bit of a late developer. I didn't really, like, I always played basketball my whole life. Both my parents were basketballers. Like I said, my dad played in the NBL. My mum played, you know, for her state and those kind of things. And, you know, I didn't really get into the higher level till I was like a 17-year-old at the under-18s. And from there, I was lucky enough to get an invite to the AIS. And I think it was within probably a month of being there that I realised, like, I can do pretty well at this. And, you know, I used that as like anyone else would use their uni degree. I used the AIS as my uni degree to get me into to be a professional basketball player. And honestly felt like after, you know, a few months there and going over and playing in the World Championships against guys my age from various countries, Greece, Lithuania, Spanish guys, I knew someone said, "Oh, these guys are all professionals," and I was still kind of at the AIS and realised, well, you know, why can't I do that as well? So, you know, I was approached by Townsville to come and play, and history, and that's all I've known basically for the last, you know, 16, 17 years.
We'll get to the NBL in a sec. Let's go back to nationals and the AIS. Your SA teams were pretty solid. I feel like we pushed you as Tasmania close a couple of times. We just didn't have the horses to keep up. You never won a nationals? Vic, I remember under 20s, they got you.
Yeah, we always seem to run into the big V at some stage. What do I think? I got a bronze in 18s, a bronze in 20s bottom age, and then silver at 20s top age.
Yeah,
we lost the Granny had 3 fouls at quarter time, which was bullshit. But anyway, that's one of my greatest losses. But yeah, I was lucky enough to, you know, my state teams, I guess SA were always kind of small, so I was lucky enough to play multiple positions there, and that helped my game because I was kind of a taller guard, and that helped me become a pro, I think.
And then obviously state, and then you were at the AS. We're at the AS together. Some really good players went through there. You have any kind of good memories from the AS?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go there in 2003, and basically the crew I went into was like Bogut, Martin, Markovic, Matty Knight, Blagoy, like a real good team to come into, Alex Marriage. And I kind of got stuck with these guys straight away, and they were such a good team. And I knew to be good, you had to be at a certain level, and to survive in that team, you had to have that ability. So that was my first year there. Then your young crew came in the second year, and that was really good. You know, we had a good little group there. And that was kind of harder on me because I was kind of an older guy with the group before, so I had to adjust to go from being, you know, one of the young guys to one of the older guys real quick. You know, it was myself, Waxy Walker was there with us, Tommy Garlop, and a few guys who've played in the NBL over the years. So, you know, love those times, love those moments. And as I said, I think the majority of our team that went there, yourself, a lot of guys now, the guys who use the AIS for the right reasons. Yeah,
obviously like a good group. I remember coming in that first year, obviously pretty scared and nervous coming from Tassie, never left home. But it was cool to have you guys. I remember yourself, Waxy, was just awesome, inviting for all us new guys coming in. And yeah, I feel like we had a lot of fun. And most of that group, we went on the with the Worlds, the Crocs under 20, under 22s or 21 and under. That was a lot of fun. Have you ever been on a trip that was more than, what was it, like 5.5 weeks?
I think it was almost 6 weeks. Yeah. No, that was a great trip. I don't think I've ever been on of the similar. I think for Worlds in Spain a few years ago, we had a bit of a long trip, but nothing like the 6-week one. I think we had like a week or two in each country, and at the end of the week, we kind of have a little party at the end to celebrate that bit. Then we'd go to the next city, and like we were all like 18, 19 at the time, so we were all adults. And our team manager, Bobby McGugan, he'd be like, "All right, boys, you know, you've had a tough week, and tonight you're allowed to have, you know, just 1 or 2 beers and just, you know, be smart because we've got an early morning." That was thrown out the window straight away because, you know, it was impossible to control us. But, you know, that team, we managed to get a 4th position at the Crocs. It doesn't exist anymore. It was a great tournament. A lot of fun. I think Canada beat us in that bronze medal game, which sucked. But anyway, yeah, that trip. We went everywhere. I think we went to Slovenia, Canada. Where else?
Did we go to Lithuania? I know we ended up
Greece for a bit. It was a huge trip. And I remember I was at the end of it, I had to go join the Boomers straight from that. And yeah, awesome trip, man. I had a pretty good roommate too. I think we watched Triple X with Vin Diesel. Was it Vin Diesel?
Yeah.
I think we managed to watch that about 15 times. That was our level of concentration. That was old school. Like, had to get a DVD and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, great. There's no phones back then, so you had to hang out with people. So
well, that was long trip, fun trip. Like, we trained a hell of a lot, and by the end of each little stop, it was definitely worth going out. I remember there were some pretty rough bus trips, going to the airport early mornings and like hoodies on, like just hiding, sleeping back in the bus.
Oh, they're great memories, man. And yeah, it was just funny, the speech. Oh, just be responsible. Like, mate, we're all 18, 19. We're going to go nuts. So
the old, like, you're allowed one beer that was pretty funny. Everyone had a good look.
Remember Alex Marriage, like it greased the beer cans with those little 330s, and Trucker would just knock them back by the pool, and all the other countries would be looking at us like, what are these guys up to? But, you know, we still came and trained hard and had a good time. And yeah, great times. And, you know, the friends and the discussions you have on those trips, I don't know if they happen anymore, but it was you know, much appreciated in the DNA of my career.
I was talking to, I think, CJ, my first podcast, about Gorge. Have you had a funnier coach or funnier moments from a coach than Bruce Palmer?
Oh man, Bruce Palmer. Wow. I remember what happened? We're in Greece and he wanted to go to the markets or something. It was like 35 degrees. And like old Greek dudes get around in these real nice linen shirts. So Palmer thought he'd go and buy one. So he goes and buys it. And the next day, I think we went for a team walk or something. He's wearing his linen shirt. And we get back for dinner and I'm looking at Palmer. He's like, whole body's red. He's sweating. He like caught some rash from this shitty Greek shirt that he bought. And just those little things that he'd do and say, hilarious, man. I remember we were playing the Canadians or something, and someone's dad from Canada was abusing us, and Palmer would get in his face, and he was yelling at this guy across the court. Just an absolute character. Then the flight from Toronto to where was it? Toronto to Argentina. It was like a 12 or 13-hour flight, and this woman was the lady, the air hostess. She was having a bit to say, and I could tell that Bruce had annoyed her doing something. And she said something, and she walked past, and Bruce goes, "Geez, who ate all the bacon?" Like, little things like that, man. His little sayings, and
he's the king of one-liners. I remember
he just burn you to the ground with
anything. I remember being in a game. I was sitting on the bench, and I think we're up. I think we're going to win as close to the end of the game, and there was someone sitting behind. I don't think they spoke any English, but was just going at him the whole game, just saying stuff. I just remember him standing up, turning around, and just being like, "Your mother's a bad cook," or something.
I heard one. It wasn't from our trip. Someone said to me, because he was a little bit bald just there or something.
Yeah.
And someone was like, "Hey, coach, where's your hair?" And he'd say, "Your mum's back." Or something like, just an absolute character. And he made that trip a lot of fun, Bruce.
He sure did. So we went from there, and then you went to the NBL. I remember being at the Institute, and we were going into our second year, and you went to the Crocs. How was that experience going to the Crocs? Obviously a pretty good little group. So how was Townsville in itself, the Crocs, and then I know you had a lot of really good vets and really good players there. Like, who influenced you the most playing with that team?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get a contract after the AIS. I'd been recruited pretty strongly by Andre Lamanis, Shane Froling, Ian Stacker. And I guess my decision was, they said to me, "Look, we think you can play right away. Come and spend a week with us, see what you feel." And I went and trained, worked out up there for a week, and I felt pretty comfortable with it all. And in fact, it was my first week up there was during the previous season, and Mike Kelly was actually still on the roster, and they had Rob Rose as well and a few other guys. And Mike actually really he took me in. Ironically, he ended up leaving when I came, so I remember him quite clearly, just being showing me the ropes a little bit. And then when I eventually signed, I came into the team, and I think a week after I signed, Johnny really signed as well. And I came into that group with him and Rob Rose, Pat Reedy was there. They were three real strong guys who could learn a lot off, and they had great careers. And two of them were boomers, and Rob was an MVP. So, I guess the thing that really rung my bell was how hard those guys were at practice. I mean, he was like 40 years old. He was 20 years older than me, and he was just busting his ass every day. And that was the thing that stood out to me. That's what you need to be a pro. There's no such thing as a day off. And, he was real old school. He'd come to training, like training would be at 5. He'd get there at 4:55, put his shoes on and just go to work. And that, to me, I knew if that was the level you had to be at, that's what it had to be. I'm not saying get to training 5 minutes early, but he had a switch like that. And when practice was on, he was on. And, Johnny was the same. Johnny was there earlier. He was in there getting his shots. I used to shoot with him all the time. And poor old Pat, he was, getting towards the end of his career. And just the way he would manage himself to get through games was something that caught my eye. So those are my three kind of main guys. And, I was there with a fellow rookie, Adam Quick. We lived together. So our nightly discussion was, how it was practice. We'd be on the red team together, always trying to beat the blue team. And, we'd talk about tactics and how to do that. So, a lot of fun for me to go into. And I think Ian Stacker was the coach at the time. Was your assistant there in Melbourne, Southeast Melbourne. And he was still a little bit old school with the 2 trainings per day. We'd do indies in the morning and come back at night. And I was very lucky to go into that environment at such a young age, because you kind of got taught a lot of that skill work, which sometimes might get looked over now in the pros. So, great experience for me to go into first up. And, we were a great team. We ended up making the semi-finals with 1 game off playing in a granny in my rookie year. So, came into pretty good success. That every game was a sellout up there up in Townsville. Our marketing and our CEO was very good at spreading the word, and it was a lot of fun playing up there as a 19-year-old for sure.
And Stacks, you had, like you said, we had Stacks. I've got a funny story about Stacks, but he would have been good fun. Knowing him now, what's that, like 15 years more? 15 years later, like how was he as a first up coach?
Yeah, I just think I clicked with him straight away, because he didn't really treat me like a kid. He treated me like one of the other, the adult players, and we had a lot of, senior guys. And his kind of message was like, look what Rob does, look what John does. They've been in the NBL for 15 years already. You kind of need to take a leaf out of their book. And I was always kind of a pretty dedicated guy, so it didn't take a lot for me to do that. I guess, I think early in the season, I wasn't because I was playing behind Rose and really, and I had a couple of really good preseason games. So when the actual season started, I think he was trying to figure out how to manage how I was going to play. And he basically, after the first couple of games, he said, look, at the 8-minute mark, you're going to go in and get robbed. So as a young player, when you're told that's your role, I think that made it very easy for me, because I'd look up and I see that 8:30, I start adjusting my shorts, get ready, and then, bang, go and sub Rob out. He'd smash my hand because he didn't want to come out of the game, which I get. And I guess that was the confidence that that Stacks gave me. I knew I was coming in at a certain time. So that's what I kind of enjoyed about that early part of my relationship with him.
Well, there's a massive difference between knowing when you're about to sub in compared to sitting there and like, oh, am I going to go in? And then minutes keep dropping. Like that whole mindset between knowing like I'm about to be in here in like a minute, I can get ready, compared to just sitting there like twitching like, oh, is it tight? Like the whole difference between that is massive.
Oh yeah, it's just the situation that you get thrown into, and I think young players, you need to have patience, but at the same time, you got to have a little bit of an edge about you for the coach to think, if I'm going to put him in, what's he going to do? Not be like, oh, you look down and he's not really into the game. So I think it's important to be ready at all times. And as I've been through my career, I've been in situations like that. You go into your national teams and other teams where you're not the main guy anymore. You have to be ready at all times. And I think that early stage of my career where I learned that really helped me for the rest.
Is John really the best shooter you played with?
Well, I was lucky to play with Johnny. He was a great shooter. Played with some pretty good shooters over in Spain. But as far as consistency and like just doing shooting drills with, you would rarely get a game off him. He just, had a high release. Every shot was always back rim down or swish. So Yeah, that's you're pretty close to being the best shooter I've definitely played with. Yeah, for sure.
And then you got drafted. How was the NBA draft? I don't know if a lot of people probably know you got drafted by the Rockets. How was that whole like draft day, draft build up, expectations of were you going to get drafted?
Yeah, that was something. So after my rookie year in Townsville, I signed with Leon Rose. This is before he kind of became who he is now, and he was John Riley's agent at the time, and he saw me play a few games, and a handful of scouts were coming out to Australia at that stage to check out games, which now is kind of the norm, but back then it was very rare. And I guess the word got back. There's this guy, he's pretty solid, so let's have a look at him. And Leon kind of said to me, look, at the end of your NBL season, I want you to come over and spend, 6 to 8 weeks in New Jersey and stay with me and go and work on your game every day. Then after that, at the end of that, you'll go and do a bunch of workouts all around America with certain teams. Then you'll go to the combine in Orlando and kind of roll the dice and see how that works. So I did that after my first year and went and did a bunch of stuff and realised probably not going to be the year. So I went back to Townsville, played my last year there, which was my third year. I was under Trevor now because there had been a coaching change. And did the same thing at the end of the year. And in fact, I took Stacks with me. So on our days off, we could work out and do those kind of things. And basically, I did the same thing I did the year before. Worked out in America for like a month with a lot of other players. Played pickup with all the American players. So I kind of got used to their game. I had to because I'd only been playing in the NBL. So that was my first exposure to the American style. And it was such an eye-opener for me because I was quite a good athlete here in Australia. I got over there and I was just like another body basically. So, and it was funny because they're all like, oh, he's a shooter, he's from Australia, he must be a shooter. But I was doing other things like getting on the rim and that kind of stuff. So that kind of surprised them a little bit with my creativity. And then, I had a pretty solid, workouts. My best workout was with Houston. So, I had a feeling, I knew that I probably wasn't going to be a first rounder. And I knew Houston had a second round pick, and somewhere through the night, Orlando traded something. So they managed to get the pick at 54. And I think I was just sitting at home watching it with my family. We just chilled out. I just got back from the States a week earlier and was on ESPN. And I think someone in the States rang me. I think it might have been Quicker or someone rang me. I'd been drafted. Then as I'd answered the call, I saw it scroll across that I'd been picked up. So, yeah, really exciting times. And I guess the whole workout process really improved my game because I'd gone from just playing against all my, Australian guys and a handful of imports in the NBL to day in, day out going against some of the toughest players like PJ Tucker, Ray John Rondo. These were the kind of guys I was playing against. JJ Redick, like these, top level players, and it was really good exposure for me. And yeah, managed to get that draft calling, and from then on, managed to do some good things.
Obviously, we'll get to your Europe career. I remember talking to you a few times here and there on Aussie trips, or whatever, about almost like being close. Like, how close were you to actually going, like, for the Rockets to actually bring you across and join, part of their squad? I remember a few times there was a couple of conversations where it might be a possibility if certain things work out. But how close were you to actually playing in an NBA game?
Yeah, so I did 2 summer leagues. After my first summer league, I was kind of always under the impression, because back then the whole G League two-way thing that didn't really exist. So you either you're with the Rockets and you might get cut after a month or whatever, and you miss out on good opportunities in Europe. And I was playing as an import at that time, so I did my first year in Greece. Then I played the Olympics in Beijing, so I didn't really have time. For me, my whole life dream was to play in Olympic Games. I didn't want to sacrifice that to go to do another summer league. So in a way, that may have hurt me, I guess, because I had a pretty good rookie season in Greece. So I went back to Greece for another year. And funny enough, my coach from my Greek team was on the summer league roster of Houston in my second year there. And, I think I was always in a situation where the opportunity for me to go into camp was kind of there, but I kind of weighed it up because I always had really good European offers, and I was in so I never played as a guy with a passport, so I was always going for 2 positions on a European team, not 4 or 5. So if I had like a guarantee in July, August, it was kind of hard to say no to the European offer to go and risk going to camp and
Yeah.
potentially, getting a month in and say, look, you're done, mate. And in the meantime, some other guy's taken my job in Europe. So, that was a personal decision I made. And, who knows, maybe if I had waited or been patient, something may have come off. But, the way my game was and the way I played, I think I suited the European system well. And, it's something I look back on, it never worked out for me, but I was lucky enough to go to a couple of Olympics and, play against those guys on the big stage. So, who knows, maybe these days it might be different, but that's what it is.
I've got no doubt if you were going through that whole process now, you'd be on an NBA team, a young Brad Newley, not an old Brad Newley. How did you make your way to Europe? Like, was that from the NBA stuff, and then your agent was like, look, your best chance is now, let's go to Europe?
I think Europe was kind of on the radar before the NBA. So in the under-19s World Tournament, we won a gold medal, and I had a really good finals there. And then the tournament I played with you, we played against Greece a couple of times, and they really enjoyed the way I played, and so they kind of recruited me I was on their radar early. And I guess once they saw that I was a chance to come over there and play, my agent said, "There's an opportunity for you to go play in Greece." It wasn't a high. It was a team that always came third, fourth, because in Greece you got your two best teams. Then from then on, it kind of goes down like that because of the money situation. But the team reached out to me, probably the week after I get drafted, and Leon had an offer to either go to a team in Italy or the one in Greece, and I took the Greek option. And I'm really glad I did, because my first day on the gig, my coach says to me, if you can survive here, you can survive anywhere. So, great opportunity for me to go and play there and learn a completely different style of basketball. And, the rest was kind of history. I was there for the next, 9-10 years.
Explain the difference between the day-to-day of Europe compared to the NBL. Obviously, like, you guys were doing tour days in Townsville, but for the most part, most teams are in the NBL are one-a-days, way shorter seasons. Obviously, explain the difference between that and, like, you really earn your money in Europe. You're training probably twice a day. It's like a 10-month kind of season, different divisions and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you my first example. So the day I landed in Athens, I went home and they gave me an envelope and they said, "There's your first check." I said, "Thanks very much." And then I was like, "Oh, what do I do with this?" No, I better take it to the bank. So I woke up early the next day, got it through the bank because I didn't want money and sit in my house. And then 2 hours later, I get a phone call saying, "Akis is going to pick you up and we're heading to the mountains." I'm like, what are we going to the mountains for? What? We're going to go chop wood or something? So we get up there and we arrive in this huge resort. And I'm thinking, there's no basketball court here. This is a resort. We're going to sit around and go running and do fitness. So I go to the team lunch, haven't met anyone, and I recognised a few guys that I played with against in juniors, and they welcomed me and that kind of stuff. And they kind of, from there, they took me, stayed with the team. We're in the mountains for like a month of this training camp. I'm thinking, are we ever going to play a game? So this was only in like August. The season didn't start till the first week of October. So the amount of training just to get ready for this season was incredible. And I think we played our first game in October and the coach got sacked after the first game. I was like, we did all this prep with this guy and then he gets the sack straight away. So I was like, that's a pretty, I guess I better start playing well because, your job's on the line. Lucky enough I was in that situation early and I knew that you have to play well every week. So basically, yeah, the typical day there would be, 11 in the morning. Everything starts late. No one has breakfast. Everyone sleeps in because they do everything at night. So your morning practice would be like 10 to 12, and that would be like some bit of skill work followed by some weights. Then nighttime would be your team session. That was pretty typical for probably my first, 4 or 5 years over there.
10 years, you said, all up playing in
I'd say 9.5 because I did a little 6-month stint with Athens a couple of years ago. So 9.5.
You're at Gran Canaria for a while. How long were you there for?
I was there 4 years.
So that's a fairly long time for. Did you become like a dual citizen then or not?
No, I was always playing as an import, but I think the team. So we had our daughter over there, obviously, and what had happened was I'd been in Spain 5 years, but I was on like a touristic visa. If the club had had my paperwork right, by the time she was born, I potentially could have been a like a dual kind of citizenship holder. But that's something that didn't work out there. But I've had 4 great years there, and the club had a lot of success. I think they were in the relegation zone when I arrived, which is the bottom 2 teams. They drop out if they don't make the top. So I spent 4 years there and had a great time.
You obviously played well enough, but why do you think you stayed there for so long? Was it just right time, right place? Because you played well?
Yeah, I think in that period of that era of basketball from like most of the 2010s, Spain was the country to go and play in, and it took me a while to get there because I stop over and when Greece, Turkey, Lithuania, and eventually when the opportunity for me to get to Spain arrived, I took that pretty quickly, and I just think the lifestyle suited us. I enjoyed the people there, the food. Our fans were real appreciative of the way I played and went about my business. So I think that's why it was real hard for me to leave. I had offers to go to other clubs in other countries, but just the living situation was great. A lot of people, who go to Europe figure out it's not easy. And if you get yourself in a situation where you're pretty comfortable, it's hard to get out of. So I think they were pretty big factors in my decision to stay there so long.
I know we had 2014, we had world champs in Spain, and it felt like, because we played in your home gym, it felt like that it was almost our home games. How good was that to go back with the Australian team and play in front of your home fans in your home stadium?
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember when the city won the bid to actually host it, and I was like, we're a chance here. And ironically, Australia draws, the Gran Canaria, the ball, I guess, fell their way. So, I was involved in a couple of promos. They named a car after me or some crap. All these silly little things. And unfortunately, we were playing while school was on, so there would have been a lot more people at the games if the school holidays had been on. So and we definitely had a lot of support. I know when we played against Lithuania, they always bring a lot of fans, and we managed to get over the line. I think we got a lot of support from the non-Lithos that night.
Funny you say about the car. I'm just going to show you a little video here.
For some reason, I felt like this was coming.
Some of your finest work with some of your best hair I reckon you've ever had. I'm just going to play this.
Toyota Auris Brad Newley, te regalamos entradas para ver en acción el equipo de Australia en la Copa del Mundo de baloncesto. Toyota Auris edición especial desde 14.900.
Bargain, mate.
I'm Brad Newley, introducing the new Toyota Auris Brad Newley. Pruébalo y llévate una camiseta firmada. Toyota Auris Brad Newley, el poder del 8.
Did they give you a car or what?
Our club sponsor was Toyota, so it was kind of like tied into that. But no car eventuated out of that gig, mate.
Do you miss the long hair? You've had some, I've talked to Paddy about this last week. The hairstyles you've had some different hair. You've gone the long hair, the short, little comb overs. You miss having some long hair?
I think the reason why my hair exploded in that probably last 4 or 5, I just had enough of getting shit haircuts. And I'm just going to let this fly out and see what happens. And then the issue was once I got it cut, how to deal with it. And I don't think I handled that very well. I think I should have just gone straight to the fade type setup. But, good times with the hair. I guess that's what, a lot of time overseas, you're not seeing too many of your friends. You tend to kind of drop your guard a little bit. But, the Spanish, the Canarians liked it. So I felt, they like it, I might as well roll with it.
I remember one off season where you came back to Adelaide when I was playing with the 36ers and you had the long hair. It's fair to say you had a decent off season. I think you may have, I don't know if you were getting married that time or you took the Aussie team stuff off and you put on a few kgs. You look just like John Candy with the hair and like the body.
And there it is. I lost a bit of control there for a minute. I kind of planned on having a little break. I think I'd gone like maybe 10 straight years of no off season. So kind of let myself go a little bit. I had to get myself in good enough shape to be able to dance on my wedding night. That was about it. But I came into camp and I think Luke Longley said to me, "You're not playing." I said, "Oh, all right, mate." And, took a year off and enjoyed myself. And I got back to training camp with my team in the island, and my coach was just like, "What happened to you?" And I think I ate bloody tuna sandwiches for a month, and that was it, and some chicken and rice at night. And got myself back in shape and had a good year. So kind of had a bit of a rest there, Gibbo. Good question.
You remember your wedding? I remember everyone was waiting. Bridge had just rocked up in her car. We're all just like kind of standing up. The music was about to play, and then Uncle Nelly, Matty Nelson, rocks up in a taxi like 30 seconds later, and Bridge is like, "Get your ass inside." Do you remember him walking in?
Mate, for anyone out there, don't have your buck show 2 nights before your wedding, because tends to tire out a few of the guys. That was a great moment, seeing Nelly come down the aisle as I'm waiting for my wife. Might have made things a bit more relaxing. Let's put it that way.
You've been in, excuse me. You've been in Spain. You've been in Spain for a while. Can you speak? Like, did you pick up much of the language? Can you speak a lot of Spanish, or you just
muy poquito?
No idea what that means. Just enough.
Very, very little. It was. Something I probably regret was not working on the language hard enough. I think that's something I probably could have channeled a bit more energy into, instead of just doing other silly things like just cruising around with mates and that. So I think I got good enough where I think another probably thing that helped me survive over there so long was I'd actually hang around with the locals quite a bit. Not just guys with the basketball team, but guys from around the towns. Your local butcher or the cafe. You're just doing those kind of things really helps you assimilate into a city. And I got myself to a level I could hold a conversation and that kind of stuff. What I was going to say. So that really helped me adapt to the cities. And I knew enough. If someone was talking about me, I knew what they were saying, but I wouldn't say anything back to them in case I stuffed it up. But my wife Bridge, she got pretty good at it, and I would let her do a lot of the translation kind of work. But I had a pretty good relationship with my assistant coach too. He spoke pretty good English. So if I was ever a bit stumped on the court, I would just ask him for a bit of advice, and he would get me over the line. And whenever we would do 5-on-0 at training or anything, I'd let the Spanish guys go in the group before me. So anything they stuffed up, I would just do a better job of. So that was kind of my secret.
That's smart right there. A question that came from your boy Jakey was, and I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Arahucas rum, or how do you pronounce? Ariucas. How much of that did you have over your time in Spain?
Mate, you put me up like I'm a bloody alcoholic or something.
No.
No, that was just that was the local drop. So, we play a lot of our games on Sunday in Spain. We play at Sunday at midday. So the big thing was you play, you get the win, and you go and have a team lunch somewhere. And, Spain is very big on its wine and all that kind of things. You have a couple of wines with you at lunch, then eventually the boys will be drinking the ron and colas, and that was the local drop. So many of those were had over a period of time, that's for sure. Last
one on Europe, they obviously eat dinner at I remember going on my first tour over there, and I was like, what time's it? Like, dinner's not till kind of 11 p.m. is like a normal dinner time. Like, how long did it take you to adjust to that kind of schedule?
I mean, I was already a bit of a night owl to start off with, so I guess the adaptation wasn't that hard for me. But yeah, it's definitely different. I found when I came back to Australia, everything's bloody closed, at 11 o'clock. So that was a bit of an adjustment for us, but used to it again now. Now we have kids. I think we eat dinner at about 5:15. So the way life changes pretty quickly.
Now back to the NBL.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously signed with Sydney. Do you see yourself where do you see yourself ending up once you're done playing? Obviously an Adelaide boy. Was it ever an option to play with Adelaide? Where do you see yourself once you?
Where do I see myself now, or where did I see myself when I was? No,
once you're done. I mean, did you ever see? First of all, did you ever see yourself playing with the 36ers? Growing up there, you probably watched.
I mean, yeah. As a kid, that was one of the teams I followed. I didn't always live in Adelaide. I moved around quite a bit. With my father, my dad was in the bank, so he would get transferred and spend a bit of time in the Northern Territory, then over on the Sunshine Coast. So I kind of followed all the NBL. In fact, when we were in Queensland, we went to a lot of Bullets games So I used to keep an eye on them too. But you know, a lot of my friends, like Dad's friends, and that are involved with Adelaide, and I'm sure they would have been happy to see me play there and all those kind of things. But you know, things work out in different ways, and you know, I got an opportunity to go to play for Sydney, you know, and I took that pretty quickly. So that's where it is now. That's where we are, and you know, as I said earlier, we bought a place here. You know, my daughter goes to school here, and you know, I've started doing a little bit of part-time work in a private school as well. So at the moment, I'm definitely here, and I'm proud of the club where we're at. We're a serious club again, and I think it's you know, I'd like to think that I've been a part of that. You know, I've been here the whole time the rebuild's on, and you know, right now I see myself as a Sydney player and you know, a resident of New South Wales.
Obviously, the Kings have gone through some pretty highs and lows from your time kind of being there, you know, not making finals, whatever, and obviously some rejigs in the front office and, you know, brought in Will Weaver and got a good team. How has that kind of wave been? And I'll ask you about your own in a minute, but just how's Will Weaver's first year been? Got a lot of time for Will being involved with the Boomer stuff and someone that's always drops him messages from time to time. How's he been his first kind of pro season as a head coach?
I always explain, like, Will has this new age calmness about him, and I think that was a huge thing that's helped me with my development in this part of my career, because you know, things change as you get older. You still are learning things, and I think the amount I've learned off him in the last you know, 6 to 8 months is huge, and actually helped me get to my game. It's where I've adjusted the way I play a little bit, and I've had a lot of success with it. So I think Will coming in here brought some real good energy. You know, we had to wait a little bit for him to come in because he was with the Boomers, obviously, and the staff he put in place, Adam Ford, Alex Maris, James as well, they all did really well to help while Will was gone. And when Will came in, it was just like, all right, this is it, let's go. And he doesn't harp on about things. There's just little details we got to get right. And I think that's what the calmness and his delivery is being what's been appreciated here. And, you know, the change that we've had at the club has been fantastic.
You think that comes? I don't know your owner Paul very like at all. I don't think I've ever met him. I follow him online and stuff, but he just seems like the most genuine, like caring, giving kind of owner. And the energy and stuff it feels like he brings his realness kind of feels like that filters down through. Do you think that's kind of been part of why the clubs turn around, and obviously personnel and stuff, but obviously things start from the top? Like he seems like he's a really cool guy to be around, and talking to Bruce and whatnot, he seems like he's got a lot of time for his players as well.
Yeah, Paul's great. Like he's like one of the guys. I heard he's been described a couple of times as the Aussie Mark Cuban. I'm sure he would love that. You know, I was lucky enough to come to the club, and it's been in good ownership. All 4 or 5 years that I've been here now. We had Harvey Lister before, you know, Paul as well, and he kind of set the club in a bit of a foundation. Then, you know, Paul came and took it to the next level. I think the perfect example is, you know, when we're out there in the heat of battle, we're playing hard, and you know, one of us, you know, gets to the line or hits a nice shot. You see Paul in the corner pumping his fist. That really makes you know that that's the guy who's looking after me. I want to play hard for that guy, and you know, he has genuine care about everybody. You know, he wants to make this place a real club, and that's something that we didn't really have now. We have like a bar/restaurant that he likes us to go to after the games, and we engage with the fans and all those kind of things. And you know, he's a real proud New South Welshman, and he has a lot of pride in the Kings. And you know, what we're doing for the city is, it's, you know, a lot of it is his hard work and us just kind of taking it to the next level.
Yeah, it seems like no matter whether you win or you lose, he's right there in your corner. Like no matter what happens, the stuff you said about the community, with obviously the isolation stuff going on, offering, you know, facilities for the NRL teams and the bushfires that went on and all that kind of stuff. He just seems like a genuine guy that just wants to help out and make, well, for us, especially basketball, the best it can be, whatever it takes.
Yeah, I mean, right now, he'd be going through a bit because, you know, we did so much hard work, and he did a lot. He was in meetings and with all kinds of people to get us to a level that we're at. And there's something, you know, the isolation happens, but unfortunately with this COVID-19, who knows what's going to happen. So he'd be hurting a little bit, because right now would be a situation where we'd be out in schools, out in, you know, the hospitals, all those kind of things, trying to promote what the Kings are and, you know, give the kids something to look forward to. So, you know, with some luck, this thing starts to pass along, and we can get back to doing that. And I'm sure he'd be hurting a bit not being able to do that with the community right now.
And from a player's point of view, the whole grand final thing, obviously that was disappointing how that ended. Like I thought that was going to be I thought it was going to go to 5 games, but obviously safety comes first, people's health, and for whatever reason that ended when it did. That must have been kind of tough to end the grand final after a hell of a season kind of that way.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'll never forget, and I don't think something like this will ever really happen again. Cross our fingers that the virus goes away or something like this never happens again. Such an unusual thing where we come out in game 1 and don't play well, and they jump us. Casper, we have a chance to hit a 3. We would have won. If that goes in, and all of a sudden we go to Perth, we're up 2-0 instead. We go there and we head over into the night before the game. We have a few meetings and these kind of things, and we're reading reports. The NBA just got cancelled, Formula 1 gets cancelled, and we're sitting there thinking, we're going to even get a game on tomorrow. And we went into shoot around. I don't normally go to shoot around. I thought I'm just going to go today because to prepare. If there's no fans there, I want to get a feel for the place without fans. So, myself and Kev, we went to that shoot around. Lucky we did. We come out and we have a great game too, and we set ourselves up for a 3rd game back in Sydney. And by then we'd kind of prepared. Yeah, it's looking like there's going to be no fans. They've asked us who of your family wants to come to the game, and my dad was here, and he's in his 70s, and just the safety of it was I don't think he should come. So my wife just brought my little son, and my daughter stayed home with my dad. So it was very, very bizarre. Playing the game in front of nobody and hearing conversations in the stands when you're in the middle of a grand final series. It just didn't feel right. And the progression was, a few players behind the scenes had some things going on, and we're hearing borders are closing, people can't travel, and we had a meeting the following day, and the solution was we probably shouldn't, don't know if we should do this or not. So from then on, the decision was made, and it was tough. It's been tough to get through, but I think now you look into the world and what's going on right now. People are losing jobs. Kids can't go to school. There's no entertainment anywhere. Musicians, athletes, every sport stops. So I think now it really hits home. The decision we made was probably the right one.
I want to back to your family. Your brother-in-law, Dave, he's got when the bushfires were going on. Obviously, he's got his winery in Adelaide, Vintalopa. Was that tough for the family? Obviously, with him going through that, the whole crop burning down and not being able to, I guess.
Yeah, so Bridge does a bit of his admin work. So she sees a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes with the finances and those kind of things. And yeah, he took quite a big hit. I think we played you guys just before or during when the fires was on.
Yeah.
And we weren't originally going to go anywhere for Christmas. We were just going to stay here. And straight after the game, we came home and booked flights so, we could be with our family and she could be with her brother and kind of discuss strategy and that kind of stuff. And, in hindsight, I'm really glad we did it. And unfortunately for him, he started to get, things regrown and all that kind of stuff. And, he's using this period to get things right, but he can't really do a lot as far as promotion and that kind of stuff with the virus now kicking in. So he's had a pretty rough trot, but, he's got a great product and, hopefully when all this passes, his crops will come good and he can start producing some quality Vintalopa wine again.
Yeah, if people want to give him a follow at Vintalopa and buy some of his wine, I know a lot of people have. I know a lot of NBL players have bought some and had bulk stuff sent out to him. So hopefully he can get back on his feet sooner rather than later. And that's www.vintalopa.com.au/ if anyone wants to get on board. I'm sure he'll love that little shout out. I remember playing with him back in Adelaide in like a high state hoops kind of tournament. So he's
he speaks fondly of you guys.
He's a good man. All right, let's get on to the Aussie team. Some how much fun is it going on tours with the Aussie team? Like, you remember, like, I don't know if you got in. I never used to get in because it was too much money at certain points. But playing drops, the card game, and how much fun is that? Like, that's what I look. I don't remember a lot of the games and what happens in the games. It's more like the trips and the bus tours and the plane flights and car games and all that kind of stuff.
They were great times. I think it was because a lot of us. Well, like half the team was playing in Europe and half were in the NBL. So it was really like a big catch up because you didn't spend any sea guys throughout the year. So you just wanted to catch up on lost time. And I remember the doctors would be angry at us. We'd be flying these intercontinental trips, 14, 15-hour flights, and we're traveling. Lucky enough, we're traveling business class and these kind of things, and we wouldn't go to bed. We just stay up and play cards and talk the whole time. Great memories. I think our first trip together, where did we go? Did we go to Italy? I think we had an Italian trip somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
Like a little mountain town. That was myself, Paddy, Joe was on that trip.
Yeah.
We were kind of the younger crew on that stage. Then we had a couple of trips to China, obviously.
One of my questions that Pete Crawford threw out to me was, who's your favourite roommate? Now, he thought you'd say Glenn Saville, which is
this is tough because you were one, Sav was one, Peter Crawford was one, Damien Martin was one. I'm thinking of the major tournaments here.
Yeah.
So I can't decide. I probably spent the most time with you, given that junior tour and the trip to Spain. So, that's a tough one, Gibbo.
I'm taking myself out of the mix. Pete
Sav was my first, so you kind of remember your first. Then Pete, we had the longest conversations with because we could just dribble all day. But my memories of Pete, we were going somewhere in the village, and I'm up out of bar. Let's go, mate. Come on, let's get going. And I'm watching him. He's like half dressed with 1 foot in bed, 1 foot out of bed, and I'm thinking, do you want to go and do something, mate? Or we want to have a sleep? He was always like, very laid back North Queensland style.
He took a very long time to get ready. If you're leaving somewhere, he's at least 20 minutes later, and just in his own world.
In his own world. That's what I said. This time he was like having a nap, but he was going for a walk at the same time. So
I remember that first trip to Italy. I remember everyone was like, it was like we'd trained from say 9 till 11 or whatever, and then we'd be done. We'd get back and we'd be like, all right, let's go have lunch.
And everything was closed.
It was siesta time, so we were walking up and down these cobble streets, little Italian little spots, and all I remember was Sav in his guitar, and then we were just walking up and down the street just whistling. There was like a whistle we had back then. It was just so annoying.
Well, it's funny because that was a real group because you had like the young guys and old guys, and I think the old boys would go and sneak out and have for a few beers while us young fellas stayed back at the hotel. They wouldn't let us come, the buggers. I think Jay Smith was on that one. Anstey.
Yeah, Sammy.
Mac. Sav. I'm trying to think of some others.
Maybe Luke Kendall.
Wertho was on that one. Paddy was real young.
Paddy was real young then.
Joey was on that one. It was just a funny little group of young guys and old guys. Just hell of a trip. And I think we ended up going to Turkey. We went to Gallipoli on that trip, I reckon.
Yeah.
That was cool, doing that as a team.
Is there a better night from major tournaments, a part of that group, than the rookie night? How much fun's a rookie night?
Yeah, I think the modern team has made an adjustment on that. We used to get so excited we'd do it before the tournament started. Probably cost us. Now they do it after the tournament. So, a few things have changed there, but it was a lot of fun. I remember I took it pretty serious. Ended up hosting a few of the shows. Then I didn't want to miss out, so I think we helped some guys with their performances. I think Bubbles, we helped him do his performance because we didn't want to miss out. But that's a great tradition that the Boomers have got. I hope it continues. A lot of fun. I think we had one in Paris one year. There was one somewhere in China. The locations are great.
Yeah.
Something I hope carries on throughout the years, and hopefully those guys can get a medal one day.
I don't know if he's your favourite, but he's definitely one of my. Like Kobe Bryant was one of my favourite players. Were you part of that drug test after the game, where it was you, him, and maybe one other Aussie player all in sitting around? Was that you or not?
It was me, Joe Ingles, Chris Paul, and Kobe after London. So I reckon we played them well for 3 quarters, and they pumped us.
Yeah.
In the last quarter, so that was in the big O2 arena.
Yeah.
So that was an experience in itself. So I'm just sitting there, and he was just like a normal dude. He just gave us 20-something points. Beat us on the buzzer, and he was just sitting there and shooting the breeze. Like he discussed how he liked the athletics. He was into that, and he was checking out some swimming. We were talking about his shoes, what was going on with that. He asked about where Joe and I were playing. He was aware of that we were both playing in Europe at the time, and just a genuine guy. Chris Paul didn't say much at all, but Kobe was, very interested in what we did, and very good to talk to. He was talking to us about his off-season nutrition or something he was going to go some new diet he was working on or something. So, getting that information out of Kobe was pretty cool and something I'll definitely never forget. I just think the one thing that stood out for me, and I've used this is with speeches with high school kids, is, he was up here and we were kind of here somewhere, and he treated us the exact same way. And I think that's the way you need to treat all people, is with the same amount of respect, no matter who you are.
Yeah, it must have been pretty cool. Obviously now with him passing, like I said, he was my favourite player, but yeah, that must have been awesome. I've got a few little questions that I put out there that to wrap up, a few little light-hearted ones. You might know who this question from, but where do you store your Coles sausages?
Where do I store my Coles sausages?
Cole Adam asked me this one.
In my hips.
Actually, you're a Carlton fan. Now, that must be like every year you're like, oh, we're going to be better this year. How has that been being a Blues supporter?
Well, we're doing all right this year. We're 0-1, which is an improvement, I guess, in some way. Yeah, the Blues is my team. I think that goes back to when I was a young fella. You kind of follow who your dad followed back then, and they had a lot of South Australian players, Kernahan and Bradley and them kind of dudes. And then, through the years, they've progressively gotten worse as a team. And then, they had a bit of a pickup towards the back end of last year. So, I still follow. I went to a game 2 years ago. I was lucky enough to get to a game over there in Melbourne and checked out the boys. We're doing all right. A few of the Giants boys and a few Swans boys come out to our games, so I keep an eye on them too. You know me, I like to keep my options open. I don't close off too hard.
So is little Charlie going to be a Hawk, Hawthorn Hawk?
Hawthorn's the only team I hate. There you go. Don't like Hawthorn.
I reckon little Charles would be a nice little forward pocket in about 20 years.
Well, mate, the social side of things would be fun to go and watch him play the footy. Who knows, mate? I kick the ball around with him a little bit. He knows how to tackle and those kind of things. But a big, centre half forward or a point guard would be pretty good, I reckon.
Now, my last one. You have a unique ability to know who sings and the name of the song. Like, where's your I don't know how to word this.
I'm good at this and sports trivia.
They're your two things, music,
So
sports
I did
trivia?
every Sunday at the Telegraph here, there's a sports trivia section, 50 questions. I went 46 out of 50. I was pretty happy with that.
So I think you did something with the Kings maybe last year.
Yeah, well, you started that. You and Paddy started that game.
Well, maybe we did this on a Worlds tour. I think it was Worlds. Sitting around.
And I would sit there and get them all, and you guys were like, what the hell? You know what? I think this is from... Now, this is probably the reason why I don't speak Spanish, because I wasted so much time listening to music and that kind of shit instead of doing something useful. But if there's a job out there, I don't know, Nova, Triple M, if you need someone in the studio, I'm more than happy to come in and help out.
Love it. Man, that's all I had for you. It's been cool catching up and having a little chat with you, mate.
Hopefully I kept you entertained for an hour or so, mate.
You always keep me entertained. We could chat for a long time. It's not about me, it's about the listeners. So hopefully they can...
hopefully they find something that I've told them constructive today. I could go in and, tell them some workout stuff, but I bought my own backboard for the backyard. Now I'm going to go out and take some shots.
And you're doing your own podcast? I see you've been doing that.
Yeah, I want to get a little plug in there for Hoops Capital. We've been on a bit of a hiatus there since the season due to circumstance, but my producer, Maddie Smith, and media manager, Ashley Stewart, I believe, have come up with a solution. And me and my co-host, Rob Canning, Channel 9 sports reporter, will be back online very soon. Hopefully we don't steal each other's ratings, Gibbo.
Look, I'm happy to share. It's a big world. People have got a lot of time to sit around and listen to some good content. So maybe we can work off each other. And people are at home a lot now. So why not go to @Vincalopa, order some nice wine from brother-in-law Dave, and sit at home and watch and listen to a podcast.
You've got to keep things ticking over, mate.
Hey, keep the economy going. Mills, you're a legend. Thanks for joining me, mate. And stay safe. All the best, man. No doubt we'll be in touch pretty soon. But thanks again, and hopefully everyone will enjoy that.
Thanks, Gibbo.
Cheers, brother.